A very good afternoon to you. This is KTN NewsDesk. My name is Najma Ismail. Now, the world is watching now as the tallying continues in the UK elections. Projections right now indicate that Prime Minister David Cameron's Conservative Party is headed for a win by a convincing margin to stay in government. With 636 out of 650 seats announced, observers say Cameron's Conservative Party will take over 329 seats, as closest challenger Ed Miliband's Labour Party takes about 234 seats. We will be giving you details on that later. Now, back home on Tuesday this week, more than 700 Kenyans who had been living in Uganda as refugees after the post-election violence returned. Their voluntary return was guided by a memorandum of understanding which the Kenyan government, the Ugandan government and the UNHCR were party to. The refugees are still in Malaba 3 days after they arrived. They say that they will not leave the camp until they are well compensated. Dorcas Wangira has just returned from Malaba and gives us that report.
Of their own free will, more than 700 Kenyans who had been living as refugees in Uganda returned to a country they hadn't been to in 7 years. For them, Kiriandogo settlement in Masindi district, Uganda, has been home. Today, this camp for the internally displaced persons nestled in the DO's camp Malaba is their home, at least for now. The tents are cloaked with each family's story, pegged in spaces just enough for each household, colored mats, far too few bathrooms and toilets for everyone. The meals delay often, and it's the little ones who have to learn to deal with the hunger. Many of them left their country too young to remember the conflict. Others were born in Uganda.
Kutenda yale ambayo waliahidi watatenda. Those are broken promises. Hazifanyi. Zile ahadi ambazo waliahidi kwamba tutakaporudi hapa watatupa package na wataweza kutupa makao, yote haifanyi kazi.
Julia Wamboi says no one forced her to come back home, but she adds that if she had known that this is what she was coming back to, she would rather have remained behind. She has 6 children, 5 are sons. All of them were born and raised here in Malaba.
Najia nitapata maisha kama hii, sababu tulikuwa tumeambiwa tutapata, tumejengewa, tutapata mahali pazuri. Sasa sikutarajia tutapata maisha kama hii. Ndio ninaomba tu watufikirie vile wanaweza kutusaidia.
They had requested the government to consider the following: facilitation of return, provision of land per household, provision of shelter, provision of capital and basic requirements. The amount of capital is the bone of contention. The government maintains that it has done and is doing enough. Harun Komen, the Commissioner for Refugees in Kenya, insists that unless lines are drawn, demands will continue to rise.
Mabasi ya kutupeleka kwenye tulitoka iko na tunapatiwa shilingi 10,000 peke yake. Sasa hiyo ndio tumekataa na tumeamua tutaendelea tu kukaa tu hapa hivi. Hata kama wata wakitutesa na njaa namna gani tutakaa tu hapa hivi.
As is, they insist that they will not leave the camp. They're only meant to stay here 3 days. Their father says that those still in Uganda scheduled to arrive on Sunday will not come.
Tuliambiwa tutapata shilingi 1,400 na tulipoingia hapa tukaambiwa tunapewa 10,010 tuweko kwa magari tupelekwe kwetu. Tunapelekwa wapi na hatuna makao? Tukasema tutakaa hapa mpaka dakika ya mwisho.
Their fate is still largely unknown. They say this is their country as it has always been and just want to pick up the pieces of their lives they once had. Dorcas Wangira, KTN, Malaba, Busia County.
Now, on the gender rule, Millie Odhiambo's comments were echoed by the Kenya Disability Parliamentary Association through its chairperson Isaac Mora. The association argues that the Speaker's proposal, together with that of Samuel Chepkonga, to have the gender rules implemented progressively is a slap in the face of women, youth and the marginalized. The association now wants the Speaker to withdraw the proposal and apologize to persons with disabilities. Now, West Pokot Governor Simon Katapin has welcomed the planned disarmament exercise by the national government in clash-torn counties northeast of the country. However, even as the governor backed the move, he warned that the process should not target entire communities and should in fact be specific to the criminals perpetrating the violence in the region. Katapin, who was speaking in Kapenguria town, also asked governments to find a long-term solution to the perennial conflict that has raged between communities for decades.
And when even we met in Boma, in hotel in Nairobi, the issues we raised, we said, let us collaborate. Let us cooperate. Let us consult continuously. It's not important for a section of people only to say they are in charge of security and they are not doing it effectively. That's why as a governor in this region, I'm ready to offer solutions and the implementing arm do it. But what has happened? Only few people sit in a room and talk on issues of security where they don't know even the geography.
Now, following the recent xenophobic attacks in South Africa, you may be asking, are Kenyans living there safe? Were Kenyans affected in any way whatsoever? And what does the future hold? Well, that is the focus of this week's episode of Daring Abroad with our special correspondent, Alex Chamwada. We will be giving you that story in quite a bit. Now, the number of orphans and vulnerable children in Kenya has nearly doubled in the last 5 years, according to the latest statistics from the government. And as the country celebrated the World Orphans Day, it emerged that the number of orphans and vulnerable kids in the country stands at over 4 million, having risen from 2.6 million in 2009. According to the Acting Cabinet Secretary for Labour, Rachel Omamo, HIV and AIDS have contributed to the rise in the numbers. In a speech read on her behalf by the Director of Administration in the ministry, Karoli Oko, the CS said that the government was now catering for 250,000 households in the 47 counties through the cash transfer program. This emerged during the celebrations to mark the World Orphans Day at the Milimani Primary School in Naivasha.
Every year, 15 million girls are married as children, denied their rights to health, education, and opportunity, and robbed of their childhood. If this trend continues unchecked, by 2030, an estimated 15.4 million girls a year will marry as children.
The protection of this nation, the protection of our children, our topmost priority in this country. I want to say simply that the children who are here do not want to hear a lot of stories. They want to hear that they have access to education, that they have access to health care, and they have access to protection to all forms of abuse.
Well, time now for a short break, but don't go too far. I will be back with more news. Welcome back. Now, Mbita Member of Parliament Millie Odhiambo has vowed to mobilize women to march on the streets if the gender rule will not be implemented. Speaking at the launch of a report on the cost of implementation of 2/3 gender principle, the MP criticized the National Assembly Speaker's proposal to scrap all the positions of women representatives and nominated members of Parliament.
This is the moment that the women of Kenya calls on you to stand to be counted. Because we are not going to joke. This is business unusual. The women of Kenya, if you want to see, you say Millie is a fighter, but joke with the issue of women's representation. Sasa mtaona. We are not going to joke. And Asango, get off there. We will go to the streets. I will leave Parliament. We will go to the streets. If it needs us to strip like the old women did, now I'm in the age where I can strip easily.
The bill that Muturi is suggesting is not going to work for Kenyan people, especially Kenyan women. And I can promise you that good men will support good women. But that women, all of them, must support fellow women for this country to be safe. Right now, we're very worried about children that we gave birth to, fighting us and killing us, being part of Al-Shabaab. You know, this is all leadership. It is.
Now, Millie Odhiambo's comments there were echoed by the Kenya Disability Parliamentary Association through its chairperson Isaac Mwaura. The association argues the Speaker's proposal, together with that of Samuel Chepkonga to have the gender rule implemented progressively, is a slap in the face of women, youth and the marginalized. Now, the association wants the Speaker to withdraw the proposal and apologize to persons with disabilities.
Affirmative action does not apply to women alone. If you do away with the 12 nomination seats, what about men who are also marginalized or who belong to groups of people who are marginalized? I mean, Bishop Mutua and myself here and others who are members of KEDIPA would never have come to Parliament through election. It is inconceivable because of the cultural prejudices against those of us who find ourselves belonging to minority groups. And it must not be seen as if these seats are just a platform for people to be elected in future. No. If somebody is, as a result of the work they've done, is elected in future, we have a lot of examples. We have even the president himself, Uhuru Kenyatta, who was once a nominated MP. There is Moses Wetangula. There is Peter Anyang' Nyong'o. There is Cecily Mbarire. Yeah? There is Mohamed Shidie, who are currently legislators. Not forgetting those who are in the past, like the late Kinodia Saitoti and Senator Mutula Kilonzo.
By somebody trying to reverse the nominations that have been given by the Constitution, is actually doing nothing else but reversing and reverting to the old Constitution. For our Speaker of the National Assembly to imagine that the nominated seats can be done away with, so that we can achieve the 2/3 gender rule, is like killing one child so that the other one can live. That kind of an attitude is really negative. So there is nothing that is going to be killed in the Constitution so that we may realize another one. That is retrogressive, that can never be accepted, and he must retrogress that. In fact, he owes an apology to the disability sector.
On to matters beyond our borders now. Social media have launched some unlikely characters to fame. Now, loved by the internet, she found fame for simply being a sour-faced feline and now has a book and movie deals. Hong Kong is home to Asia's own grumpy cat. His name is Brother Cream and he's got hundreds of thousands of social media followers worldwide. He visited CNN's Christy Lustalt and her team at the studio.
Meow. He's Hong Kong's most famous cat. People flock to visit Brother Cream every day. But today, he's making the trip to CNN with his owner, Ko Chi-shing. The feline found fame through social media.
Why is Brother Cream so famous? It's because in July 2012 he went missing. After 26 days, we found him through the internet. Many people came to help find him and visit him, so he became popular.
Now, the British shorthair has more than 170,000 Facebook fans, and he's been paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to appear in advertisements for major brands. Brother Cream's image has been plastered on city buses and subway stations, handbags and stickers. There was even a 3-meter-high statue of him outside a major shopping mall. The celebrity seems unimpressed with CNN. He spends most of his time at a 24-hour convenience store, occasionally granting photos to his adoring fans. But Brother Cream also gives back.
I established the Brother Cream Foundation. Every time he did a job, I put all the portion that I received into the foundation. We donate cat food or dog food to those independent volunteers every month.
He may attract adoring fans wherever he goes, but at the end of the day, Brother Cream is like any other cat.
When he sits down, he always falls asleep.
Christy Lustout, CNN, Hong Kong.
They want to exaggerate.
Amazing. To sports now, the national women's volleyball team is seeking to reclaim the African Cup of Nations crown this year after losing it to Tunisia last year. The Queens, who are currently in camp at the Kasarani Indoor Gymnasium, are hoping for a better outcome in the championship, which Kenya will host next month in Nairobi.
After successful All-Africa Games qualifiers in Uganda, where Kenya booked a ticket for the continental showpiece set for Congo-Brazzaville, the national women's volleyball team has now shifted focus to the Africa Cup of Nations Championship that will be staged in Nairobi next month. Kenya is without a doubt among the biggest names in African women's volleyball, and with that, the team has been the target of all competing teams.
With the good preparation that we are doing now, and putting in mind that some of our players have experienced in international matches, they have played professionals and they are joining us, I believe we are going to recapture the cup.
We know our strength, but our weaknesses is what we are going to work on, the reception and the services. Yeah, we are going to measure on that, and I'm sure by the time the championship comes, we'll be ready.
With the well-oiled North African volleyball giants Egypt, Algeria and defending champions Tunisia expected to take part in the championship, Kenyan tacticians are banking on the inclusion of foreign-based players to steer the team to victory.
Outside, they have experience, so it will add up to the team. I'm sure we'll be a step higher than where we have been.
So far, we have played these teams at the club championship as a club, and we have seen them, how they play. Egypt, we have been them in Uganda, we have beaten them, but they are still a strong side.
The competition will also act as a qualifier for the 2015 Women's World Cup to be hosted in Japan from August 22nd to September 6, 2015. As the African queens keep polishing their art, one thing tops their motivation list: winning the African Nation Championships. Robinson Okenye, KTN Sports.
On to La Liga now. Spain's professional league LFP has taken legal steps to overturn a decision by the Soccer Federation RFEF to suspend matches from May 16th over a dispute with the government on a new TV rights law. The federation's pledge to hold matches, which is backed by the players' union AFE, threatens to throw the final weeks of the La Liga season into chaos and sideline some of the world's top stars. Now, in a statement, the LFP hit back and said the ref's decision was legally invalid and that it had initiated the appropriate action with the pertinent administrative and legal bodies to overturn it. Spanish law gave the LFP the right to organize professional competition and set calendar for the matches. The league argued that and called for those involved in voting for suspension to be subjected to disciplinary measures. Well, thank you very much for watching KTN News Desk. My name is Najma Ismail. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon.